What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video. Today I have a variation of tips to do with Ableton stability issues and performance issues, to do with setting up a drum rack, to do with freezing tracks. So if you take pride in your studio and you're just learning these tips for the first time, they're highly appreciative tips because they will help your workflow, they will help you advance, and they will help you understand a bit more. There's nothing worse than spending hours on a session and then it crashes and you lose things. It happened to me today. Now I know that's funny, but on the other hand, there's nothing more uplifting than having a solid, reliable machine. So the first thing is about stability and performance issues. So if we open up the task manager, we go to Ableton and we go down to see the details and then set the priority. If you have a look, the Ableton index is automatically set to below normal, as is Bitwig. Bitwig's audio engine is set to high as default. That's the software. As making music's my priority on my computer, I also need it to be my computer's priority. So what I like to do sometimes, if I'm having stability issues while mixing or it starts going slow loading times and things like that, then I set the priority to high. If you've got quite a lot of software open and you do multiple things on your computer, then I'd probably just leave it or set it to normal. The other thing is sometimes you can go to close a piece of software and it don't close, but if you go to the task manager and you can end the task via the task manager and it will just bypass the software and it will tell Windows to close the software. Now doing this with Ableton, it might not recover from a session when loading back up. Staying on performance and stability issues, the next thing that I want to talk about is storage and storage locations, i.e. sample libraries, presets, all kinds of things, like anything that, so you've got your disk cache that needs to be on it, you want preferably on a fast hard drive or a SSD, and then you've got obviously the software itself. Again, it wants to be on a SSD, installed onto a SSD. Sample libraries, especially high quality instrument libraries, they want to be on something like this. Just for example, that kind of hard drive. A couple of these, even the 250 ones next to it, they'll work well. Most importantly, just try not to ask a hard drive to read and write at the same time. And make sure your hard drives are digital and not mechanical. So the next thing I want to get into is inside Ableton itself. Now if we have a look at this drop down window, we can open both views at the same time. The shortcut is Control, Shift and W for both windows, so that way you can have them both up at the same time. And if you've got two screens, you can put them on, or if you've got a big enough screen, then you can just have both on one screen. So yeah, that can come in handy. So the other thing is, if you go inside preferences and allow multiple instances, you can then go and load up Ableton a second time on your computer, and then you can start linking the sessions together. And if you've got two computers on a network, you can do the link as well. But say, for example, if you're inside a session and you're trying to navigate to another session, you're limited. If you go through your browser, your Ableton browser, and then pull up the track or the group or whatever you've got in that session, as opposed to pulling up a whole new session. Say if you've got a mix session, for example, you will have all your sends on there, you will have there's things inside the whole session that you wouldn't have just pulling up the individual tracks. So that's a handy tip to know. Now moving on, when you're freezing tracks inside Ableton, so once you freeze a track, whatever your sample rate set to inside preferences, that's the sample rate the file will record at. The second tip that I want to tell you is freezing in the two separate views can have a different outcome. Freezing tracks in session view won't give you a tail like this in arrangement view. See, it's got the tail because the track's been frozen in arrangement view. If you freeze a track in session view, it will only freeze to whatever the bars was set to inside session view, and you won't necessarily get a tail because it's not been frozen in this view. So like this, it just cuts off, you know. So in most cases, I'll just unfreeze this track and stretch the MIDI clips out. But if you turn your speakers down for this sound, because it's gone back to the default preset on this particular instrument, and it don't sound very nice. So if I'm just going to go back and put that back so it's frozen, the way I'd get around that is I'm not going to freeze it, I'm just going to go back, because if I freeze that now it will go back to the source, just the default sound. Now the way I get around that is I deactivate clips in my session view. So I always keep a deactivated clip, like when the sound's out it will be deactivated. That way I could just hit 0, activate it again, and that way if I need to get a tail on a particular bit at the end, or so this is a way around just modifying the clip in this view. And this don't happen all the time. Like I said, this is because this session's been saved, closed, and then loaded back up on a different day. And like I said, it don't happen with every instrument. It's only a few instruments that do that. So, but you can just reactivate the clip, get which part that you need. So if you activate the clip, get which part that you need, and then you can get the tail there, and the track's still frozen. So the way to split the clip is you just highlight the section that you want and hit Control E. Or Command E, and that will split the track. You see, to get the tail at the end, you know, and if I want the long fade out, then I'll just can put that there, so I get the fade out that you know, if I wanted to modify this clip now, or this track now, this instrument, this sound in this view, but I've already froze it and I'm having the problem with it going back to the default preset, then like I said, keeping clips deactivated comes in handy because you can just reactivate them again. So the next trick, if we grab a sampler, drop it onto a MIDI track, you go down and open the zone section, and then we're going to get our samples and we're going to drop them into this part of the zone section here. So if you highlight the select key and make sure all your samples are selected. They should all highlight when you drop them in anyway. And we're going to pull them all to the beginning. Now we're going to unhighlight the top one and move them all over to the right. You can use the arrow key to do this. There's 127 keys on each pad. Now to map them to the macro on your MIDI, you could either right click on the top bar there, say map to macro, whichever macro you want. There's another way to map them, which I'll show you in a second. You can switch between the views while you arrange them and make them more accessible depending on the size of your screen. It's ideal to rename them as well. Rename the rack to the name of your choice. And the other way to map the selector is group the drum rack and then map it as a group. Once you've mapped it, you should be able to turn a dial inside your MIDI controller and change the kicks like this. So that's my drum rack setup. My kick rack, I could go ahead and make a snare rack, whatever I want to put on there. Effects, I like effects racks. So yeah man, that's the best way to set a drum rack up inside Ableton. You've got a lot more choice and option. But if you find once you've done it and you go through your samples and you find some of them are on repeat like this, you just hit it and it's not a one shot, it's kind of just, it's on a loop. So what you're then going to need to do is find that sample, the name of the sample, whichever. You can have a look down the menu, the name of it, what it's called. If you go down these and you have a look here, you can see where the arrows are set to in and out, and you just want them set like that. You just want them set on one shot. You don't want them set on a loop. So yeah, you'd go down the list and go down, just hit down arrow key. You'll see which ones are set on the wrong arrows, on the loop symbol. So yeah, you want them on the one shot definitely, and I think that's about it then. Yeah, once you've done it all, you can arrange it all, and you can have 16. There's 16 of them. I believe there's even more, so I just set 16 up. You can set up as many as you want. Yeah, I think that's everything for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with some more tips in another one. Let me know if any of these helped you out. All the best again, and take good care.